Hey everybody, Craig from the University of Applied Research and Development, and this is part of our Veteran Stories Difference Makers, and I'm delighted to have Travis with us here from Oscar Mike Radio. Good morning, Travis.
Or good afternoon in my world. Doctor, thank you very much.
You're really welcome, and I'm in Tuesday, so I can tell you the weather's going to be great for you.
Oh, that is wonderful. That's good news.
It's great being a time traveler.
I'm telling you.
Hey, Travis, why don't you tell us about your motivation for getting into the military originally?
Sure, absolutely. I was parking cars for a car dealer and, trying to go to school and decide that, university and higher education, that was too hard. So I'm going to do something smart and join the Marine Corps, which should be easier, right? Right. And, it was a really good way to jumpstart my life. I was a little stagnant for a while, but I wanted to serve my country. Both my grandfathers served in
Mm,
World War II. Strong
mm,
appreciation for our military growing up, and felt like that would be a good idea for me to serve and be a part of that.
mm. Tell us about what you did, your role in the time when you were serving, where you went, what you did.
Sure, absolutely. Um, Took my test and got placed into the Marine Corps has a scoring system, so I scored high enough to be in their aviation support military occupational specialties, and I got put into something called Hawk. And the funny thing was, in boot camp and everything, no one really knew what Hawk was until I got to my MCT school, and they said, "Hey, you're going to go to Fort Bliss, Texas, and work on a system that fires missiles." Which, if you look at this logo right here, this is the
Mm,
facsimile of the missile that I fired. So the Hawk missile is a medium range surface to air missile. So it fires about 40 to 60 miles away from targets. And that's what I crewed. I learned how to work on the radars and put the missiles together and transport them and all that stuff. And that's what I did.
wow. Wow. And how long were you in the service?
4 years. 4 years.
4 years. And did you travel overseas?
I did not. It was a really funny story. As I got into this MOS with Hawk, it was replaced by the U.S. Army's upgraded system called Patriot. And so I never got
Mm,
to travel, but I got to travel in the U.S. We were stationed in Yuma, Arizona, so I got to go to Mexico a whole lot, and we did a whole lot of stuff out in the desert.
are you able to tell us some of the things you did?
Sure, absolutely. The best part was being on the scopes. You worked through the launcher and the different radars to get to the scopes and sit there, and we would practice target engagement with aircraft from Luke Air Force Base in the Phoenix area, Miramar and El Toro from California. And then Yuma has, at the time, it had the Harrier squadrons and the F-18 squadron, so we were constantly practicing against aircraft, so they could learn how to do SAM evasion. We could learn how to shoot them down. That's what we did. And so we would take our radars and missiles out to the field and practice doing that.
How amazing to be practicing against the best of the best.
When we got a kill, the lieutenants and captains were extremely happy. Our lives got really easy, and you know if we didn't, we would go back and learn how what we did wrong, how we could
Mm,
improve. Was it the equipment? Was it the team? Everything came together to make the team work so we could accomplish the mission. There was no one person above the other. If one
mm,
person couldn't pull their data cable fast enough, we couldn't get the radars up to actually engage the aircraft. If we didn't have water, I was telling people one time, we were out in the field in July in Yuma, and it's extremely hot there. It was so hot. This is a true story. We took tinfoil and cracked eggs in the tinfoil on our Humvees, and we had omelets. It was just that hot. We were drinking a
wow,
gallon of water an hour to stay alive. So
wow.
just there's the old expression, right? For want of the nail, the shoe is lost. So every little piece comes together to make this work for the team, and that was really instilled in us when we were doing this.
Travis, it sounds like teamwork is really important, but also process improvement.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's a process improvement for everything in the military. They will tell you how to fold your socks. They will tell you how to brush your teeth. They will tell you how to walk out of a building, right? And at first, for people watching this, because my family couldn't believe how much I had changed. But when you're in those high stress, high operational situations, you
Mm.
fall back on these process procedures and you realize they're just rote. You understand what to do because you have followed the process procedure explicitly to the point. And sometimes it's like, oh, what am I doing this for? But when you're doing this and it absolutely has to matter and you realize you've done it the same way every time and everybody there knows everybody's job, that's how you have success.
Mm. And so 4 years in the service, and then you transitioned out. What did you do straight after leaving?
I rode my motorcycle from Yuma to Boston, which was a pretty cool way to decompress from the military and see
Mm.
our great nation. I love being American, and there's a lot of cool stuff I hadn't seen, even though I had lived in a couple different places. And then I got up here, started the true transition process of being a civilian. I had to get a job. I had to, figure out what to do. There weren't any jobs for radar and missile technicians for in the civilian life. So how do you do that, right?
Right.
Bounced around a little bit and got with a program that taught you computer skills for 6 months. And it was kind of a difficult thing because even though I could show that I'd worked on this high tech equipment, I didn't have a piece of paper saying I could take apart a
Mm.
computer and put it back together. It was, well, I'm like, okay, fine, I got to do it. I'll do it. And I started working, and I'm in the industry, and just so happens I tell this story, and I really love telling it. A naval submariner at my current employer, where I'm at now, I've been here for a while, needed somebody to do computer work. And he's like, this guy, me, would be a good fit. And the hiring manager was like, well, I'm not really sure. He's from the Marine Corps. He doesn't really have a lot of the stuff that I want to see on a resume. And he's like, he's going to be fine. I want to take a chance on this guy. And
Awesome.
because of that interaction, I got a chance to come and work for a very successful financial services firm that I've been at for almost 22 years. And, I
Mm.
have started out working on PCs, and now I do cybersecurity.
Wow. That's fantastic. Can we just go back a little bit?
Sure.
You gathered all of these skills and competencies, but you didn't have the piece of paper that the civilian world recognizes to say Travis knows how to do that. Do you think that's the case for many veterans?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of us get out, whether it's, working on a truck, firing a machine gun, or even just, doing certain types of other jobs, hazmat or whatever. The challenge is making that skill and those unquantifiable, competencies that you picked up over the course of your service translate to a civilian job rec. And so I can say, versus when I got out versus now, there's a lot more programs and a lot more companies here that understand that. They're like CVS and Home Depot and a couple other big names have, organizations within their company to help veterans transition to their workforce because they realize the advantages that we bring as an employee to a firm.
Mm. Yeah, fantastic. And so you've launched Oscar Mike Radio. You're over 200 episodes, as far as I can see. Looked at and watched this morning a really interesting one with the Irish angel Amanda Coleman. Tell us about the motivation behind starting Oscar Mike Radio.
Sure, thank you. So I started Oscar Mike Radio in 2016. At that time in my life, I was in a really dark place in my life. A lot had gone wrong. Um, you know, and the thing was, I didn't really make the choices that got me to that point. I was just dealing with them, and I was trying to figure things out as I transitioned to a different part of my life. And I was feeling really down, sorry for myself, honestly, doctor. And I had joined the Marine Corps League at the time and done a couple other things. And I realized, talking to family members of veterans who had committed suicide and other veterans who just seemed to have, still living, but just lost hope, that there was why did this happen? What's going on here, that our community, who has done all these amazing things, gets to a point in their lives where we just lose hope and want to check out permanently.
Mm.
And I didn't have a lot. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, but I wanted to do something. And I'm like, well, I've always enjoyed the radio. My first job was at a radio station, 98 Rocks in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's where I got my first real taste of how the music business worked. And I've always liked the radio. My dad listened to Garrison Keillor and, Rush Limbaugh and, Howard Stern, all those people. And I'm like, I'll give that a shot. I'll give that a try. And, one day in 2016 in April, almost 6 years ago, I met this guy, Keith Hayes, at Massasoit Community College's Dale Dorman's Media Day. And they had a whole thing about podcasting. I'm like, I can do this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I can do this. And so I got myself together, took some time, and in July, I launched my first show. And what started happening, doctor, as I went through this, is I started getting a lot more out of the process, creating something, putting myself out there. And I started coming out of my shell and my chasm that I was in, and being able to connect other people to resources that could help the people. That was really fulfilling. So that's a very condensed way of saying how it all got going.
And so for people who are transitioning from the military, maybe they're going through a tough time, what would be some advice that you would give them as they move into civilian life to do that well?
I would tell you, don't be too hard on yourself. We've all gone through this. And then here's the second thing: you gotta ask for help. That's hard. Even for me today, it's hard for me to do. It's hard for me to ask for help. But there are other veterans groups out there, veteran individuals, veteran service organizations, and certain states in this country have dedicated, officers that will help you through the transition process. Network and collaborate with them, get to know them, understand what the process is, take your separations brief seriously, and understand what resources are available to you. And the most basic thing, I kind of did part of this, but use your GI Bill. Now, the reason I'm saying that, doctor, is in I don't know if you're aware of this, and if you are, I'll just stop me. But we have what's called the Montgomery GI Bill in this country, where if you contribute like $1,200 at the time when I was in, you get money to go to college. And a lot of us veterans never take advantage of those benefits at all, ever. You just sit there. And I did for college when I went to some college after the Marine Corps, but a lot of veterans don't. And so it behooves you to get signed up and figure out how to use those benefits, and you'll be connected to other veterans trying to do the same thing. So I think it's, be educated, be aware, ask for help, and network with other veterans.
Love it. Great advice. And tell us about the picture you've got on your screen behind you.
This is my original logo for Oscar Mike Radio. And there's a lot going on here, but it works for me. So the O and the M stands for Oscar Mike Radio. The fleur-de-lis, which is on, my right there on the screen, kind of symbolizes where I joined the Marine Corps from, which is Louisiana. I really like what the fleur-de-lis stands for. And the centerpiece is the Maltese cross. If you understand what each 8 points stands for on the cross, it kind of aligns to, how I want to, live my life.
Love it. That's a great motif.
Thank you.
Travis, thank you very much for your service, and thank you for being with us and the work that you're doing also with Oscar Mike Radio and getting people's incredible advice and stories and wisdom and sharing that with the world. Really appreciate the work that you do now.
Thank you. And I've enjoyed coming on here and talking with you, doctor.
Fantastic. And for those of you watching, whether you're watching on LinkedIn, Twitter, or on YouTube, or any of our platforms that the recording will be on, if you want to reach out to Travis and Oscar Mike Radio, you can see the URL on the screen just below us moving along. And so thanks very much for being with us, everyone, on Veteran Stories Difference Makers. We'd love to see you again on the next episode.